Now we get to focus on Jazz helping out Danny, Sam, and Tucker in fighting ghosts. And it goes about as well as you think it does. I don't want to criticize too hard because, God bless Jazz, she's clearly trying, but it's not working at all. But even then, I have to say, Danny is unreasonably crass with her. Like, yeah, I get it, she keeps screwing up and she's obviously way in over her head. But don't you remember your first experiences with your ghost powers, dude? Even as far back as the first episode, it had only been a month since the accident with the portal, and you were still struggling to get a hold of your powers, dude. All of this culminating in Danny blowing up at her, and her getting so upset, she goes to stay with Uncle Vlad for a while. Wait, what?
What?
Absolutely!
Absolutely? Oh, fantastic! I'll look after her as if she were my own.
To be fair, this move on Jazz's part makes some sense. She only just recently found out that Vlads have ghosts, and she wants to do some investigating of her own.
How come you never told me Vlad Masters has ghost powers? And he has a thing for Mom?
What I don't understand is how she didn't know about Vlad having a thing for her mother. I suppose Maddie never brought that up to anyone after the events of Maternal Instincts. Oh, by the way, remember the ectosuit from Rainstorm? Well, Vlad apparently stole it.
I've improved Jack's ectoskeleton using the lightning rod and ectoconverter as an endless power source. Meanwhile, the nanobots will control your breathing and heart rate.
Which means Vlad can basically kill Jazz anytime he wants to. So that's fun. You know, Danny, maybe this wouldn't happen if you would treat Jazz as the intellectual she is once in a while. They're being forced to fight each other here, and you told her to make it look convincing. And then you chastise her for kicking your ass!
Will you listen to me for once in your life?
Duh, I am listening to you. You told me to make it convincing.
If I weren't a C student, I would have thought of that 5 days ago.
I also just love the sheer complexity and stupidity of this entire setup. So like, Vlad and Danny know that the other is half ghost. Jazz knows that Danny and Vlad are half ghosts. But Vlad doesn't know that Jazz knows about their secret. So as far as he knows, she's just getting mixed up with good old Invisible. And then he tries to do this big-ass reveal to Jazz, only to then realize that he got completely played.
Self-destruct initiated. Activating in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, butternuts!
There's no other place in the video to put this properly, so I'll put it here. Vlad likes to curse in food products, in the same way that Lancer likes to curse in book titles. It's stupid, but it's hilarious as fuck. Speaking of following up on things introduced this season, we get more development into Danny and Valerie's relationship. And once again, the people that argue that Danny and Valerie had better chemistry than Danny and Sam get more support for their arguments. Unfortunately, nothing can ever be simple, and our favorite technical villain, Carl Weezer Boy Genius, is back to fuck with them. All part of a convoluted scheme to gain access to a very powerful satellite computer or something.
And this is part of the Cybertron megacomputer. It's the hub that links to the actual processing unit which floats in space. A computer that powerful could be used to control every other computer in the world.
All to spread inane madness because villain or something. But really the more fascinating stuff of this episode is the stuff between Danny and Valerie. There's genuine chemistry between the two of them. It reminds me a lot of Jackie and Marco from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Sure, I liked Star and Marco together a little bit more, but Jackie and Marco had shockingly great chemistry with each other, and I could have totally bought a relationship between the two of them that lasted throughout the series. It's the same thing here. Yes, I have my preference of romance, but if Danny and Valerie's relationship had worked out throughout the series, I wouldn't have minded. I'd even argue that having Danny and Valerie together instead of Danny and Sam, and having them to get together earlier, would have created a lot more story opportunities that really could have elevated the show to the next level. It's not a failure that they didn't go this route, but it's definitely a missed opportunity. I mean, think about it. Danny dating the girl that is hellbent on hunting down the ghost kid. That would have created amazing opportunities for the show to explore. Of course, this never happens because, of course, Danny is going to end up with Sam at the end. Hell, everyone already basically assumes that Danny and Sam are in a relationship, to the point where Danny's own father gives him a class ring to give to Sam, with her name already engraved in it.
I'm sure Sam will love it.
It's not for Sam.
Of course it's not. You guys are just friends. I even had it engraved. See, that was the embarrassing thing.
Wait, how is that embarrassing? I mean, yes, it's embarrassing in this situation because it's not meant for Sam, because she's not the one he's dating. But to have the ring engraved with the one you want to make your significant other? That's romantic as fuck. Fuck you, Jack. Also, why the fuck would you bring the ring with you to a fight scene where you know there's gonna be action and you're gonna be crashing into walls and shit?
Hold this.
Who the heck is Wes?
Your mother.
You know, I'm starting to get the impression that Sam just overall isn't very bright, and you had the nerve to call Paulina shallow. So it's an episode centering around a presidential fitness test. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm getting flashbacks to high school. And look, I don't expect Danny Fenton to be as strong and powerful as Danny Phantom. But come on! It's been several months in canon since the accident in the lab. There is no way he's this much of a weakling. Apparently he is, though. Otherwise, why would the gym teacher assign Dash Baxter, of all people, to be his gym buddy? While Tucker gets the pleasure of having Sam as his gym buddy. Well, it was nice knowing you, Tucker. Unfortunately for Danny, things go sour as he and Dash find themselves shrunken thanks to Skulker and his newest evil scheme to cap. Actually, I take that back. Them getting shrunken was not Skulker's fault. No, it was Danny's dad, because of course it was. So this is another episode that I was initially down on when it first came out, but over time, and especially in preparation for this video, I've warmed up to it a bit. I think the biggest reason I was down on it at first is Dash. I'm finding that Dash is a lot like Ponyhead, in that he's tolerable in small doses. But this episode pushes him right to the forefront of things. Although weirdly enough, Danny and Dash have this bizarre camaraderie with each other. It actually made this plot kind of enjoyable for me. I'm not saying I'd ever want to see these two team up for an episode ever again, but for this one occasion, yeah, it's bearable. And credit where it's due, I think the episode does a good enough job of putting Danny's physical strength on display. Because he got shrunk down while in his ghost form, his powers have been severely diminished, so he basically has to rely on his human strength in order to get through.
We did it!
What do you think we just benched? Proportionally.
I don't know, dude. I'm not that good at math.
I'm more amazed that you even know what that word means. There's only a couple of other things I want to comment on. So while Danny is shrunken down, he starts to transform back into his human form, but it goes bit by bit instead of all at once. I'm assuming in canon this is just a side effect of being shrunken down, but I do have to admit I did find it amusing the different clever ways they would turn him back into human without actually turning him back into human. I don't know, I guess I just wish the show did this more often than the traditional transforming back entirely bit. But that doesn't happen, and this is the only episode where we get to see it like this, which is unfortunate. The other thing I want to say before we move on is I really enjoyed the Tucker and Sam interactions in this episode. I kind of just wish we had a little bit more time seeing Sam try to whip Tucker into shape. I especially love how Sam gets Tucker to work out. She dangles this PDA that's supposedly all brand new, and you think it's going to be a callback to her being rich from the episode Attack of the Killer Garage Sale. But no, it turns out it's completely fake.
It's fake?
But you have to admit, it was a great way to get you into shape.
I guess so. But since my hands are all bandaged, I'm probably gonna need help going to the bathroom.
Taxi!
Sorry, Sam. No pain, no gain. Your words, not mine. So let me get this straight, Sam. You're going to protest and make a statement against beauty pageants by entering the beauty pageant.
Anyone who would do that is totes retard.
Yeah, the only thing you're making a statement on, Sam, is how much of a fucking clown you are sometimes. Okay, so Danny is handpicked to be the judge of this beauty pageant, which is run by this lady who turns out to be the ghost lady from last season who transformed into a dragon when she got pissed off. They actually go the extra mile to craft a backstory for her and her ghost realm, which I appreciate greatly. The short of it is, her realm is stuck in a time where it's still the 19th century, and her brother, Prince Aragon, demanded a human bride, and Sam was chosen for this because, well, I guess desperation breeds stupidity. This episode is kind of weird for me. So the whole driving force of the episode is Sam wanting to make a statement that girls can be more than just prim, proper princesses like most beauty pageants try to pass them off as. She accomplishes this by just doing her own thing and fucking around during preparations. And later on, her attempts to call off the wedding with Prince Aragon should just be as disgusting, crass, and vulgar as she possibly can. It's a little bit off-putting because, quite honestly, Sam is extremely obnoxious with her stance in this episode. I get the message it's trying to pass along that women can be far more than prim proper princesses. They can be individuals, they can be independent. All of that is great, I am not disputing that. I just feel like Sam's behavior in this episode is a little bit off-putting for me. And then she's vindicated in a way at the end when Danny picks her as the winner. I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way, and it's made this episode age worse in my eyes, unfortunately. I will say, though, I think there is one area where the episode truly shined in, and I don't even think it was intentional. In my opinion, this episode did a great job at showcasing just how effective and dangerous gaslighting can be. For centuries, the Dragon Lady Ghost had to put up with her brother, constantly beating it into her that princesses do not think. They don't express thought or personality. They just have to be prim, proper, and perfect. And you can tell 1600 years of this really has gotten to her.
You're just gonna let your brother push you around like that?
What choice do I have? A princess isn't supposed to think. We just have to smile, look pretty, and live happily ever after.
So, how happy are you?
I'm honestly not kidding when I say this part alone salvages this episode from being outright bad to just very mediocre. The character motivations, primarily from Sam, really drive me off a cliff. It's funny, the more I rewatch the show, the worse Sam's character ages for me. Let's see, Tucker's apparently the descendant of an ancient pharaoh. One of said pharaoh's ancient servants gets released and bows himself to Tucker. Tucker's trying to run for school president against Dash. Danny and Sam are completely ruining his campaign because they're not listening to him. They're both pretentious idiots about it. Tucker becomes pharaoh of ancient Egypt and makes everyone do his bidding. And Tucker's an insufferable windbag at times that loves the sound of his own voice. Yeah, I think that covers most of the bases for this one. Yeah, it's another one of those episodes that isn't bad by any means, but isn't one that I'm eager to revisit over and over again either. I do like the ancient Egypt motif, and it was cathartic as fuck to see Tucker get back at Danny and Sam for not listening to him. But more so Sam, because at least Danny apologized.
Somebody should've.
I know. And I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I mean, yeah, Sam does say she'll try to do a better job of listening to Tucker at the end of the episode, but then she immediately goes and walks away when he starts talking. And yes, Danny joins her as well, but my ear is mostly focused towards Sam because I'm not too happy with her character in recent episodes. Though, to be fair, that could also just be a precursor to what I know is coming in a future episode, and I'm preparing myself for that. But we'll get there when we get there. The only other thing of note is the pharaoh servant himself. So why was he in a coffin in the real world if he's a ghost? Shouldn't he be in the ghost zone? I mean, I guess it wouldn't have made sense to have the high school class take a trip to the ghost zone for him to be incorporated into the episode, but it seems weird that he would be here on Earth instead of there. Oh, and he tries to double-cross Tucker, because of course he does.
Wow, now I know why they call these things ruins.
Hi, the 90s called. They want their puns back. Hey, did anyone ever want to see Jack Fenton with ghost powers? Well, neither do I, but we get it anyway. So Vlad comes down with a severe case of ectoacne, apparently a side effect from him having ghost powers. Except this raises a lot of questions, because this is the first time in series we see him in present day with ectoacne. So what the hell gives? Does it just like come and go like regular acne? Is it treatable like regular acne? Oh, and Vlad also infects Tucker and Sam with ectoacne, which I guess confirms that you can get ectoacne independent of getting ghost powers. Neato? Yeah, it's that classic trope where the character goes back in time to try to fix something that he sees as an error or as a necessity, only for it to cause catastrophic results on his present, and then he has to go back and fix his mistakes again. So in this case, it's the accident from 20 years prior, where Vlad originally got his ghost powers. Danny interfered so that Jack was the one that got hit with the blast bag instead of Vlad, and as a result, Jack got the ghost powers instead of Vlad. And Vlad married Maddie. So Danny doesn't technically exist. Whoops!
Congratulations, you played yourself.
What I find fascinating about this timeline is that Jack didn't go full Vlad. He didn't turn evil. He just became incredibly bitter. Hell, he even tried to become a superhero for a brief time before it blew up in his face because he's dumb.
Perhaps I shouldn't have debuted on Halloween.
You think? I also find it funny that Danny is easily able to convince everyone that he needs to that he's from an alternate timeline that should be the proper timeline. Like, what incentive do they have to actually believe him? I actually quite enjoyed the action in this episode. It's fast-paced and gripping, although that might just be the emotional stakes. Although I do have to question why Ghost Jack has green ectoblasts when Vlad had pink. What's up with that? Oh, no, wait, Jack can use pink. Okay, so you can pick and choose. So then why does Vlad always use pink? I never understood that. Also, it turns out that the cure to ectoacne is apparently Diet Cola. Okay. But that would imply that every single case of ectoacne of all time spurred directly from the accident 20 years ago at college, which seems far-fetched to me, unless Vlad infected himself. Is that what happened? Vlad infected himself with ectoacne so he could blackmail Danny into getting him the cure, or else he and his friends would die. You, sir, are a glorious bastard! Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Danny Phantom Clone Saga!
This is starting to sound like a bad comic book plot.
Ever wanted concrete proof that Vlad needs counseling? Well, here you go! He's trying to create the perfect clone of Danny. Also, he can have a son to call his own.
Wow!
He fails, but we do get an interesting character out of it, by the name of Danielle, who is also half ghost like Danny and knows how to kick some serious ass. I like how well Danny and Danielle play off of each other. They have a good brother-sister-ish bond that they form throughout the episode, especially later on when Danny has to convince Danielle that Vlad is just using her as a pawn.
I don't want to hurt you.
Then let my father have your morph DNA, so he can save me.
You really feel for Danielle as she slowly comes to terms with the truth. Seriously, Vlad, all you had to do to succeed was just treat Danielle like she was your daughter, and you would have been in the clear. But no, your ego wouldn't let that happen. Then again, I think after...
Mark my words, Maddie, nobody says no to Vlad Masters.
Maybe treating Danielle like she was yours is not the best strategy either.
Am I an imperfection? A mistake?
Yes.
My favorite part of this episode is when Danny uses his ghostly wail on Vlad, all in the name of protecting Danielle. Although it does strike me as a bit odd that Vlad never asks Danny where he got that power, since it's pretty much confirmed that Vlad cannot perform that power, so you'd think he'd be a little curious, but nope. It ultimately comes full circle later on in the episode where Danielle uses her overshadowing powers to help bail Danny, Sam, and Tucker out of trouble with their parents and Mr. Lancer. Which reminds me, there's this weird subplot in the episode where Danny apparently doesn't appreciate his own friends? What? Yeah, Danny does screw his friends over and frequently leaves them to clean up his messes in this episode, but it feels like we've already done a lot of these plots where one of the friends doesn't appreciate the other two in some capacity. It's weird and off-putting.
There's nothing you can do about it, old man.
Old man?
Credit where it's due, though. That line read makes me laugh every time. Never change, Mr. Lancer. Never change.
It's Danny, with an I. And don't worry, you'll see me again.
Yes, we do actually see her again. In exactly one more major episode focusing on her, and a blink and you'll miss a cameo in the series finale. Which is a shame because she does have a lot of potential for growth here as a character. Hell, Butch Hartman has said that had the show continued on from the 3rd season, Danielle would have been properly integrated into the Fenton family. And that's a storyline that I still would love to see, even to this day. Just not with Butch Hartman anywhere near the show anymore. No, thank you. I didn't like this episode when it first aired, and I hate it even more now. Pretty much every bit of this episode feels wrong in one way or another. That's actually kind of impressive for me. Okay, so this new kid on the block named Gregor stops by, and Sam is immediately smitten with him because, let's be honest, she could be just as shallow as she claims Paulina is. They even start dating, which naturally makes Danny jealous, because the chart says we can't have the two main leads that so obviously have the hots for each other actually get together until the very end of the series. Which means, despite all of the obvious tension between Danny and Sam in this episode, they just go back to the status quo at the end as if nothing happened. And really, this isn't even the big problem with the episode, it's more of a meta problem. And the main culprit of these problems is, of course, our favorite goth girl, Sam.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
So Danny is paranoid and believes that Gregor is secretly a guy in white, a federal agent sent after him to take him down. So he decides to spy on Sam and Gregor while they're dating each other, and Sam calls him out for it. Now, that's all fine and good, except for the fact that Sam spied on Danny when he was dating Valerie and flirting with Disaster.
Fucking what?
Now, true, it's not the exact same circumstances. In that episode, Technus was the bad guy, and they did have proof he was actively screwing with Danny and Valerie, but the fact remains, Sam and Tucker spied on Danny during his date with her. So you would think that story would get some kind of reference here, but it doesn't. And no, I'm not trying to say that Danny was right to be spying on Sam. It's an invasion of her privacy, and he should know better. But you'd think after all of the bullshit that the three of them have been through together, that Sam would be a little bit more sympathetic to Danny's concerns. Yes, they were coming from a disingenuous place, but there was a non-zero chance that he was right anyway.
You're an idiot.
And that's another thing too, the side plot with the guys in white really doesn't do anything for me. They're not interesting characters, I don't care for their shtick, so this is all just tedious and annoying. Even the action scenes they have with Danny just feel so boring and hollow. There are a few attempts at creative setups with the fights, I'll give it that, but I just can't get into any of them because I don't care about the guys in white. And then after all of the stupidity this episode brings us, you want to know why Sam eventually breaks it off with Gregor? Well, oh my god.
Dude, do you ever stop talking? Do you even know how obnoxious you are with your stupid jokes and your lame-o technology? He's nothing.
Yeah, Gregor's a total fake. No, he's not a guy in white. Danny was completely wrong about that. But his access and origin home were all fake. And he did all of it just to get on Sam's good side.
Way to go!
The accent and liking Tucker just to get on my good side?
What good side?
I mean, I really like you, but come on.
No. He's got a point.
At the very least, at the end, Sam and Danny did apologize to each other. And I admit it was sweet seeing Danny start rambling on about what he thinks of Sam.
There are a million reasons a boy could like you. You're smart, you're fun, you're cool, you're pretty.
But at the same time, it's frustrating because you know that these two are going to get together, so why are we putting it off? My favorite scene of the episode is one near the end where the guys in white show up at the Fenton house. They're looking for the ghost boy, obviously, and admittedly, they do get a few funny lines in this scene.
You're too prepubescent.
Hey!
And it's not that Manson girl, which leaves the Gregor kid we saw them hanging around with.
So the guys in white thought Gregor was Danny Phantom, and Danny thought Gregor was a guy in white. This has bizarre love triangle crackfic written all over it. Somebody write it. At least the season ends on a high note with the double-length episode Reality Trip, which introduces us to arguably the most powerful weapon in this world, the Infinity Gauntlet. I mean the Reality Gauntlet.
Well, I don't know that much about it, but...
Wait a minute, if Control Freak's not supposed to be a ghost, why does he have that white aura thingy that indicates he's a ghost? I rewatched his debut episode and he did not have that aura, so what the hell gives?
The gem of life. It can make anything come alive.
The gem of form. It can transform anything into anything else.
And this?
The gem of erectile function. Increases your fertility by 70,000%. The catch is, though, you die as soon as you finish. Actually, it's the gem of fantasies. It makes the dreams of whoever is wielding it come true. The gauntlet also has a failsafe. If you're touching one of the gems while it's active, and you think of a place to hide it, the gem will automatically disappear and hide in that place. And then Control Freak and his minions fly off to retrieve those gems, leaving Danny behind to clean up his mess and deal with the fallout of his secret being exposed to the world. Oh yeah, Danny's secret identity gets exposed to the entire viewing world. What? So between Danny getting exposed, the government being after him, the three teens going on what is essentially a glorified globe-trotting adventure, Control Freak kidnapping his family, as well as Sam and Tucker's families, and the fact that wherever Danny goes, where he's not being hunted like a fugitive, he's being worshipped like a hero. By the way, I love this clip. Yes, the Ghost Kid's identity has been revealed, which is why we're not going to say his name because we don't actually fucking know his name. Brilliant marketing, people. It's safe to say that this episode is jam-packed with a lot, but I mean that in a good way. There really aren't a lot of dull moments in this episode. There are a few, which is unfortunately to be expected with a double-length episode, but at the points where the tension is supposed to be high, they pull it off beautifully. It's great. Like I hinted at last time, this is the episode where we find out Control Freak has ghost envy, which basically means he felt that everyone in his life loved ghosts more than they loved him. And weirdly enough, Jazz can relate to that. Yeah, Jazz and Control Freak have this strange bonding moment in the middle of this special. It's incredibly bizarre to see, and yet I'm strangely fascinated by it.
Sometimes I wish I was a ghost.
For the last time, no you don't.
Unfortunately, there are a couple of things about this episode that I'm not crazy about. The first is the ending fight between Danny and Control Freak. While the fight itself is fine, actually it's great, it's how the fight ends that bugs me a little. Long story short, Danny uses Control Freak's ghost envy to his advantage, getting him to eventually turn himself into a full ghost.
If you think being a happy Ghost is so cool. What do you think of me now that I'm all Ghost?
Just then.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Like, I get what they were going for, and in all fairness, the way they executed it is perfectly fine. It gets the job done. I just don't like it, because I really wanted to see a fight between this form of Control Freak and Danny. I mean, look at this shape! It's both menacing and ridiculous at the same time. But that's more of a personal preference than an actual flaw with the episode. Like I said, it's executed fine. I just really wish it had played out a little differently, is all I'm saying. The other thing that bothers me is the ending itself. It starts off fine, with Jack and Maddie admitting how proud they are of Danny, even acknowledging that it's their own fault he kept his secret from them for so long.
All this time we've been yammering on about destroying and dissecting ghosts. I'd have been terrified too if I were you.
We love you, sweetie. You.
And Danny accepts their apology by erasing their memories! Yeah, you heard me!
Why are you doing this right now?
Yeah, I don't agree with this at all. Like, remember in Bitter Reunions when Danny was so hung-go and adamant that his parents would love and accept him when Vlad confronted him on it? Well, I guess he doesn't believe it now. Or he thinks his parents are lying to him right now. Because otherwise, this is egregious status quo is God syndrome when you really didn't need to do this. I think it's the fact that Danny blatantly chooses to erase everyone's memory, including his own parents, that bugs me. Like, I understand him wanting to erase everyone else's memories, except his friends and loved ones that already know. But your parents literally just said they hated themselves for the way they made you keep your secret.
I wonder why he didn't trust us enough to tell us.
Let me guess.
Hey, Maddie, let's destroy the ghost.
No, Jack, let's dissect the ghost. You guys are so understanding.
You stupid.
I don't know how much of a hot take this is, but I actually would have preferred had it been an accident. Like, the guys in white infiltrate this area, and they start shooting after Danny, and he raises his hand with the gauntlet on it, and accidentally wipes everyone's memory, not even intending to do that. I don't know, I just feel like after everything Danny went through, not just in this episode, but the past 2 seasons, that he kind of earned having his parents fully on his side. And frankly, I think the audience earned seeing a season where Danny's parents are on his side too. But that's just me. Let's wrap this up. Danny returns Control Freak to the guys in white, erases their memories as well, and then he destroys the reality gauntlet.
Stop the film. Stop the film.
So, you're telling me this all-powerful gauntlet with these all-powerful gems can basically do anything that the wearer wants it to? And yet it can be easily destroyed by a single, not powerful ghost blast? What?
Lame!
Despite the riffing I've done, Reality Trip is a very good episode and a great season finale. High stakes, good action, good comedy, and there are barely any dull moments here. While I don't think it quite measures up to the greatness of The Ultimate Enemy, I still enjoy it a lot. And like I said, it is a much better use of Control Freak here than his debut episode last season. I'm still not fond of Control Freak, don't get me wrong, but I enjoy him here more than I did in Control Freaks.
Why do we hang out with a kid who has ghostly enemies?
Because you have a crush on him?
Oh, shut up, you know he's right. And that's it. We have come to the end of Danny Phantom Season 2. All 17 episodes, or 20 if you count the double-length episodes as 2 episodes, which I don't, have now been successfully covered. And this season kind of surprised me, because I expected to go into this season loving it more than the first season. Now, while there are episodes in Season 2 that I overwhelmingly adore way more than the episodes in Season 1, I don't feel that way completely across the board. It might just be that the one episode that I really hate this season, Double Cross My Heart, is so insufferable that it brings the entire season down as a whole. But I think in terms of consistent quality across the board, Season 1 has Season 2 beaten out just by a hair. But don't get me wrong, Season 2 is still a good season overall, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it all the way through. Minus one episode. And if nothing else, we can at least say that it's not as bad as Season 3. Yeah, we have another infamous season coming up. It's not quite infamous in the same way as Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 4, but it's still not good. At the very least, this season only has 12 episodes, so the video won't be nearly as long as my previous videos have been. Still, it's quite the disaster piece we have waiting for us. So come back and join me next time, where we cover the final season of this wonderful cartoon. A cartoon so beloved and celebrated that Nickelodeon celebrated by airing all of the episodes out of their order.
We were watching Extreme Nanny Makeover when we found out your son was a ghost!
Your spooky Yuki bat daughter has to be behind this!
So, two things. One, Jack is technically right. Danny being half ghost is Sam's fault. Which leads me to two. This is the same girl that you went out of your way to get a class ring engraved with her name so Danny could give it to her, and you were seemingly okay with him making her his girlfriend. What is with you people?
Someone's hacking into the system? Again? I thought we fixed that.
He must have accidentally synced up with somebody else's PDA!
Then you didn't fix the problem. Because wasn't that what started Skulker's problems in the first place, dating back to last season? Amazing that when you put two of the smartest tech-savvy ghosts in the Ghost Zone together, you still come out with one ginormous dumbass.